Hello everybody, welcome back to Safa's Unscripted. As you can see, we are sporting another companion there in the English shirt. So yeah, Safa's and English Unscripted, I guess. Yeah. Anyways, hope you're all well. Hope the gents are well in the room, in the chat room. How are you guys doing?
Cold, sick, but one of those things.
Brett?
No, I'm fine. I'm unvaccinated, so I won't get sick.
Makes two of us.
Yeah, okay. But anyways, please, before we get into this video, which by the way is I think we're all very excited for, basically we're doing an all-time 15 but in the modern era. So we based our players from the 2000 year onwards. We didn't go beyond that, and even it's going to be very recency bias from me and casual due to us being at the younger age. Brett will obviously might have a bit more in 2000.
Kind of almost even 2005 and above. Like they had to hit their prime in the in the 2000s.
So if you don't see for instance, Jonah Lomu, US Van der Vesten being named, please don't shoot us in the head. It's just because we're doing a more modern version of this. But anyway, before we get into this, please remember to like, subscribe, and share to all your mates. Let's continue to grow the channel. We really appreciate you guys. And yeah, just keep interacting with us, and we appreciate it.
We also tried to make it like a bit more, have a bit of variety, because obviously the All Blacks dominated most of this. But we tried to slip in a couple of boys from the Northern Hemisphere, even from the Springboks or whatever, right?
How do you know?
Yeah, you don't know our teams.
Fair enough,
anyways,
fair enough.
Let's get into this. We'll start off with our OG in the middle, Brett. We're going to start off with front row. What was your modern era all-time front row?
I think so. So I'm giving my two props and my hooker.
Yeah.
Okay, so at loose head, I went with, well, you just said it, one of the All Black greats. I went with Tony Woodcock. Probably the best loose head New Zealand ever had and ever will have. I know the Franks brothers might argue with that, but it is what it is. I went with Bismarck du Plessis as my hooker.
Okay.
And I went with Frans Malherbe as my tight head.
Sure.
I'm not surprised at all. Brett, see that you mentioned the Franks brothers. He's my number one. I've got Owen Franks. Like I thought about Tony Woodcock, but he was before the Franks brothers, right? So
before and during.
Yeah. So I went with Owen Franks. I just remember the guy was an absolute beast. My number two, easily, I've said it multiple times. This guy's the best hooker that there's ever been. He's still playing. You won't be surprised. I put him in my top 10 forwards of all time. Malcolm Marx, bro. I'm telling you now. Put respect on players that are still playing, right? I know people will come out and say a couple of other boys or whatever, but Malcolm Marx, he's that guy. Okay. Look. And I knew Brett would go for Frans Malherbe, and I love Frans Malherbe, so I just went for his rival, just because I want some variety. Otherwise, I would just put in another Springbok. I went with Tad Furlong, who's also been up there. Yeah, he's also been up there with being named the best number 3 in the world for years and years and years. So I just had to put some respect on his name. He's been close with Frans Malherbe. Obviously, I choose France, but I put some respect on Tide Furlong.
Okay, so the thing with, and you're looking at this oak right here, like Malcolm Marx is like fanboy. Like this is my oak. But I still didn't find place for him purely because, and it's unfortunate, it really is, but I just think coming off the bench too much. I know he gets a similar game time as Bongi, but it's more so off the bench. But anyway, my hooker was Dan Coles. I just thought that oak is, I mean, it's Dan freaking Coles. Like the guy could play it. He played the Dan Sheehan role and the Malcolm Marx role for the All Blacks. Like he was both, which is insane.
You could have put Dan Coles as the best winger as well, because that's where he put all his tries.
And then my two props were Owen Franks at 3 and Osterhunt at 1.
Oh,
I
okay. So
think
I went Owen Franks at one. I didn't know which Franks brother it was in the one position. I just went Franks at one. So I just needed somebody else.
yeah. Okay, but yeah, any major disagreements there, or we all
No,
in the
No, I think those are three very, very strong front rows. Obviously, our ages do actually come into play.
you know what I
Because
tell you, Brett? My front row would beat your front row right now. Mine
Okay.
would whip yours ass.
Okay,
no,
well,
I got France Malherbe.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay.
mine's got the Tackers. Damn calls. Anyways, 4 and 5. Okay. We'll start with me now. I just
Roll all
went
three.
at number 4. I went Ibn Etzbeth. If you don't put this Oak in, I don't know. People
Yeah.
claim that yes, he hasn't won a World Player of the Year. I get it, but the Oak has just been insane. Like he's just been unlucky. He's been consistently a contender for World Player of the Year, but then there's always one Oak that's like has the best year of their life, and then that type of thing. But just I don't know. Ibn Etzbeth is going to go down for me as the greatest Springbok of all time eventually. And then my 5 lock also respect. This was very tough, but I did go with Brody Retallick on this one. I think Brody was phenomenal, like a really phenomenal player, still is. And then I just want to shout out Martin Johnson. Like he didn't make it, but he was a big consideration. It was between him and Retallick.
No.
Okay.
No,
Casual.
Brevan. You just
What do you
bottled it
mean?
there at the end.
Why?
Disagree
The
with
Oak-
them after you give your team.
It's Ibn Etzbeth in the 4. It's
Yes.
clear cut. And then if you wanted a debate, it's between Brody Retallick and Sam
And
White.
Sam White, like you're sure, but still, shout out for.
I don't want to hear anything about Johnson or whatever, right? It's the only correct answer here is Ibn Etzbeth and Sam Whitelock, or Ibn Etzbeth and Brody Retallick. And I also went for Ibn Etzbeth and Brody Retallick. Okay? There's no English players getting into this rubbish this early already. Okay? There you go.
Okay, before you two youngsters start fighting with your words, I went obviously Yebben at 4. I think Yebben's going to go down in history as one of the greatest rugby players of all time.
Yep.
I think currently, Yebben deserves more respect than that chop from France, the scrum off that we shall not name.
That chop, that is the best in the world, but we've been through this. More time, please. But anyway.
Yeah, and Yebben for me is he's one of the goats of rugby. And then I went with somebody I knew you guys wouldn't go for because it's a bit earlier in the 2000s. I went for Fabien Pello from France. I feel like his 111 tests in a very struggling era was probably something that needs mentioning, and also one of my favorites because he reminded me of a Argia. He had proper skill ahead of his time, so I kind of enjoyed him.
Brett, I'm just surprised you didn't go with Franco Mostert.
He's definitely Franco's the goat. But anyways, we move on to this. This for me personally was the toughest decision. This part of the team. So we're doing our back row 6, 7, and 8. Casual, do you want to kick us off on what you went with?
Sure. I already know Brett's not going to agree with the 7. I think we both know Brett doesn't agree with the 7. And I was thinking, like, do I put Pieter Steph du Toit in the contender for 6 or 7, seeing that we played reversed? Either way, he didn't make it, but shout out to Pieter Steph because he's absolutely brilliant. But I went with in 6, the debate was between 2 players. And it was Terry Dusetois for me or Michael Hooper.
Okay, yeah. What did you go with?
Michael Hooper.
Oh, you're a chop, bro. You're an absolute chop. You
Michael
cannot.
Hooper.
No ways.
Michael Hooper, for all the years that he's played, a loyal servant. When you talk about the team that was the most dominant at the breakdown with Michael Hooper and David Pocock, Michael Hooper leading the team as well. He's done it for years. Absolutely brilliant. I will not have any Michael Hooper slander. You can put in Terry Dusetois, but you will not slander Michael Hooper. And I got him in there. Absolute brilliant player. There you go. That's my number 6. Richie McCaw in 7 speaks for itself. Brett will obviously take his chance to slander Richie McCaw. And then in the 8 jersey, put your respect on your current players. I said it. Ari Savaya. There you go. Those are that's my back 3. Yeah. Current world player of the year as well. Done it for years.
Yeah, okay. Brett.
Sensational.
Let's see. I know your ball knowledge will top this, so please enlighten me.
Okay, so
I'm kidding, I'm kidding.
At number 6, I went for a player that I thought single-handedly almost beat the All Blacks in a World Cup final. Thierry Dusetois was probably, like, I have so much respect for that guy. And if you read Richie McCaw's book as well, he even says that Thierry Dusetois is the best flank that he's ever played against in his life. So, yeah, unfortunately, I did not go for Richie McCaw. I feel like he was very overrated. Didn't do much for me. People think he's the Siya Kolisi of his era because of his leadership role. I just thought he got away with too much bullshit and he was a manipulator, so he would never be in my team. I went with one of the guys I looked up to as a player. If I had to play flank, I would learn from him. I felt like he was a brilliant distributor. Hardest tackler in the game, Skalkberger. And my number 8, I put in the first Englishman. I felt like in 2003, Lawrence Delalio was he was the Bob Skinstead of England. He revolutionized English rugby in 2003 specifically, and I thought he was a great leader as well.
Fair enough.
Yeah, okay. So Brett, me and you completely agree on Dusetois. I mean, the Oak, literally, I think, what was it, like 33, 34 tackles in a final? Like, that's unheard. Like, we thought Peter Steff, you know, obviously Peter Steff had an insane World Cup final, but, I mean, 33 tackles, obviously didn't get the job done, but you almost feel like he was playing by himself because he scored the try as well. So, yeah, just incredible. And he also won World Player of the Year, so got to put respect there. Then at 7, casual, I agree with you. Yeah, look, I'm not the biggest Richie McCaw fan. I was, for a long time, I had Peter Steff in the side, and then I just thought, I still think Peter Steff has a bit. Okay, this sounds crazy. He has nothing to prove, but a little bit more to get him in that real, you know, GOAT status, because I think he has the potential to get there. I think he's criminally underrated. He's only starting to get recognition now. And then 8, it was between Kieran Reid and Dwayne Vermeulen, and I went with Dwayne. I just thought Dwayne was, as much as Kieran Reid was important to the All Blacks, I just think Dwayne was way more vital to the Springboks. And World Cup final, man of the match in 2019. I mean, the Oak was 37 when he's playing in a World Cup final. Now, just insane. So, yeah, Dwayne Vermeulen was my 8.
Yeah,
not a bad shout.
But didn't Dwayne make a late test debut as well?
Yes, 28.
Yeah. The thing is with McCaw, it's just like when your team is considered the greatest to ever grace this earth for the number of years they were dominant, and you were the captain kind of leading the way, it just like subconsciously plays with you as well. Like, this guy, he led this team, he has to go in there. I'm just throwing this out there as well. Like, fair enough. I do think if you took them player for player, and we've said it before on a podcast before, like, Peter Steff might actually be better than McCaw. Like, he offers you more on the field. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if people agreed or disagreed with it. But I just think when you are the captain of the most dominant team to ever grace this earth, it adds something extra to it. And I love the Kieran Reid shout as well. But it's Adi Savaya.
So casual with that utter stupid knowledge of what words that just came out of your mouth now. Does that not make Siya Kolisi the best player in the world then? Because he's also captain of very dominant Springbok side.
Because how many times did the teams come out and say Richie McCaw was an absolute menace this game? Like, his impact on the game was a lot more than. Yeah, but that's your opinion. Like, he got away with it. And he played the game. He played the rules. Okay?
Yeah.
That's like, he played smart rugby. It's just I mean, what do I have
But
to
you know
add
what's
here?
crazy? You know what's crazy is like the more I tend to like grow up per se and meet like new people involved in the game, I find like for instance, I didn't ever think once that Richie McCaw was the GOAT. I believed he was definitely a special type of player, but I didn't believe he was the GOAT. And then I remember I met Brett, and he was like, Richie McCaw's not it. And I was like, like I actually agree with this oak. And then you meet more people, and the more I've grown up, the more I've met people that are just like, Richie was good, but he wasn't him. So I find it's a very 50-50 type. I think a lot of people say Richie is the GOAT because of society. So that's what society, you know, it's like what's happening with DuPont now. It's the same type of thing. I'm gonna get shouted at for this, but anyways,
Yeah, because we're
bring
going
it
into the
on,
9 now
please.
anyway. You can
Yeah.
start
Anyway,
off. You can start off with the 9 and 10, Brev, and there you go. You've got the
yeah.
floor.
Sorry about that. I went
Just,
with,
just
and this
your,
is the
just your
so.
9.
Okay, it's just my 9. Okay, so I went with a very obviously I had Free Dupree in there, Aaron Smith, and then I didn't choose both of them. I went for George Gregan. I think George Gregan was absolutely phenomenal. Phenomenal.
Yeah, he was
Casual.
great. I mean, you guys already know I've gone for on this
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
I mean, it's Aaron Smith. Like George Gregan, fair enough. Like he was a bit before my time, right? Like I haven't watched back at 2002, 2003 rugby necessarily, but like of what I've seen of the modern day era, the competition that Aaron Smith had over all these years and never looked like losing his spot. The way that he just revolutionized the way that a scrum half almost played after Joost van der Westhuizen and those guys came through. Aaron Smith is the best 9 to grace this earth, in my opinion, by a country mile. But that's my opinion. But yeah, that's why I went with him.
It's a fair one.
Yeah, just a quick one. So I obviously grew up with George Gregan, and I put George Gregan and Richie McCaw in the same bracket because
hectic, okay.
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. He was a very smart player, like very smart. He's like back then what a Nick White is now. He can climb under your skin very, very quickly and stay there. But he was probably one of the worst defenders in rugby, not just as a scrum half, I think as a whole. I can't remember him. Okay, he actually made one massive tackle on Jeff Wilson one year to win the game, the last Bledisloe Cup, I think. But his overall defense was appalling, like properly horrible. But I actually agree with Casual. I also went with Aaron Smith. I feel like I've never seen a rugby player with a better pass than Aaron Smith.
Yeah.
Like he will find the same target, little dot on a wall from 30 meters out, and he'll hit it every single time. Yeah. Even under pressure, he does so well with his passing accuracy. And for that, he went into my...
and just the pace that he could get that ball out of the ruck. Like how good that made that dangerous All Blacks attack. Like it would have still been dangerous, but he made it so much more lethal. And the way that he played, just reading the game, seeing literally everything around him, quick second decisions. The guy was absolutely unreal.
Yeah. And look, not to make this about, because people are obviously going to ask us now, DuPont. We're going to just address that now. Casual, you had a point before we even came on the podcast. I don't know if you want to share it as to why we don't really consider him modern era. Like, well, he is modern era, but like we don't think he's done enough yet. You had a point before.
Yeah. So my point, we actually went live, right, on another platform, Brett and myself. And I said, if you take them as overall players, Aaron Smith and Antoine Dupont, I think Dupont is a better player than Aaron Smith. If you look at the kicking game or the open field, how he'd run, or just the things that he can do at the breakdown, stuff like that, right? Dupont is a better all-round player, but he's not a better 9, what I expect a 9 to do, than Aaron Smith. And if I'm going off a position, who do I want as the 9? I'm not taking a guy that can be a threat at the breakdown or whatever. I want the best 9. And that's why I think Aaron Smith is better. Now we're thinking about Dupont. it's not like he's done it for years and years and years, right? Like, was he the main scrum off in 2019? I can't even remember. Exactly. Right?
Morgan Park. I think no,
Yeah.
it wasn't Morgan Park.
Yeah,
but anyway,
exactly. That's the point. He's won 1 Six Nations. He is currently the best 9 in the world by a mile. He's currently the best player in the world, probably. Him and Ori Surveyor is up there. So I'm not taking anything away from him. But I'm not going to push him as a 26, 27, 28-year-old, however old he is, as the greatest of all time already, when there's so much more for him to accomplish. Like, we want to see him accomplish something in the Southern Hemisphere as well. So I'm not taking anything away from the guy, but he doesn't match up to Aaron Smith as the best 9 of all time.
I agree. He didn't tour to Australia. He's not touring to New Zealand next year. He hasn't toured to South Africa. He hasn't played against Argentina in Argentina.
So the stat was he's played 20 minutes of rugby outside of Europe, bar World Cups. So in Tokyo, that doesn't count. So to test rugby, he's only played 20 minutes outside of Europe. That also is a concern for me. Like, we all admit, like, he is the best in the world at the moment, but there comes a time where you need to conquer New Zealand, South Africa, Australia. Like, you know, I know it's
Europe.
Yeah, look, I know it seems arrogant, you must conquer the South, but historically, if you're looking at the best teams, it's South Africa, New Zealand, and Australia, along with England up there. So,
I don't get why people get so angry about it, because we're not taking anything away from him. We're just explaining why we think Aaron Smith is still ahead. Like,
okay. Anyways, we'll move on from. Yeah, we'll move on. And Dan, sorry. Well, there you go. There's my 10. Sorry, Dan Carter. I know who Brett will have, and Brett is a firm believer in this oak, but we'll let him go last. Casual, who is your fly-off?
Yeah, fully agree. Dan Carter revolutionized the game. I'm not taking anything away from Wilkinson. Like, obviously was a great player, but he
can you let Brett introduce this player first, then you can
Brett,
not just give it away first.
No, but well, obviously, who else is he going to choose?
Just giving him the suspense.
The point is, Johnny Wilkinson I didn't see him play that much, like, during myself growing up. You get what I mean? So I'm not taking anything away from him, but Dan Carter was unreal every time I saw him play, except for the one time that he got absolutely smoked by Bismarck du Plessis that got a red card. But other than that, absolutely sensational. Brett, take the floor.
Okay, so as you guys all know, I'm a fly half, so and I've based my whole life on one person. Well, not my whole life, but majority of my fly half career on one person. If you look at a guy like Henry Honeyball for the Springboks, he used to be the hardest tackler. They called him Lem. He was the hardest tackler in rugby. And then you look at a guy like Johnny Wilkinson, who has Dan Carter, who has all the skills in the world, that can kick very well, hardly misses, also flair. And then you put those two people together, and then you get Johnny Wilkinson. That is how I feel about Johnny Wilkinson. I feel like he single-handedly won the 2003 World Cup. I think that I'm not even a good defender as a fly-off, and I feel like Johnny Wilkinson could do everything and some. So with that being said, Johnny Wilkinson is my guy. He will be until I die. Nobody's going to come close to Johnny Wilkinson in my eyes. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
I respect it.
I respect it. I do. I really do. Like, you convinced me. You really did. I rate the oaks.
You didn't convince you to take
No, you didn't
out
convince me. No, it's still Dan Carter. But, like, Johnny Wilkinson, I also think what's crazy is he's like considered one of the best, but I still think he's underrated. Like, I still think he doesn't get enough praise. Like, I think he was that good.
That's the issue when you go up against who's considered the greatest to ever play the game, right? Like, whatever people say about you, it will never be enough praise, because they will say it will always be Johnny Wilkinson was insane, but Dan Carter, you should have seen that guy. Like, it's always that kind of discussion. Like, let's say you look at the Olympics that's on now, and you were to see Johan Blake running, and you're like, wow, that guy's quick. And they would see Yeah, but his partner, Usain Bolt. Have you seen that guy, right?
This is
It's kind of the same situation when you're like up against the greatest to ever play the game.
I guess
Like,
so.
I just want to add one more thing. Also, that people don't seem to realize that as a person, like people crumble under pressure all the time. Like whether it's in front of a girl or when you're talking to somebody for an interview or you driving a very expensive car, people crumble under pressure sometimes. And Australia in 2003, in my opinion, was probably one of the strongest sides ever. Like ever.
Yep.
They were so good. And Johnny Wilkinson, with his wrong foot, kicked a winning drop goal in a World Cup final at a packed stadium. Like the size of your testicles to pull something like that off is sorry guys, I have so much respect for that guy.
I know people take the piss with it a bit. Like I know he missed a couple of drop goals before that one, but I actually commend him for it, like to keep going for it, knowing that that the opportunity is there, which is absolute. Brett, just before we move on to our centers, who's the better defender between Johnny Wilkinson and Butch James?
Johnny Wilkinson.
I wanted to see Butch James just took heads. He took lives on the field.
Yeah, he stopped people, but not very legally.
It's where he got his nickname from, Butch. Okay. Okay. Well, let's move on to our center pairings. We'll start with Brett on this one.
Oh, this was by far the hardest. You guys struggled with flanks. I struggled with centers because I didn't want to put all the South Africans in the side, so I tried to avoid South Africa at all costs. I had my favorites were a guy like John Navilliers. He was a massive favorite of mine. I didn't put him in because of the way Ma'a Nonu improved his own game to even now. I think he's 42 years old. He's still playing in America. I think that a guy like that, it's insane. Ma'a Nonu is my 12, and my 13 is nobody's going to agree. Not even this person will agree. But I really enjoyed how basic he was and how he gets his job done. I went with Jonathan Davies from Wales.
Oh my word!
Wow!
Wow!
Okay.
He did nothing wrong.
I mean, fair enough. Jonathan Davies. Yeah, he was very consistent. 7 out of 10, for example. Fair enough, but put it.
Okay. No, but we like these shots. Something to discuss.
I actually
in
thought
the comments.
Brett would go a bit wayward and say in the 12 jersey, maybe the likes of a Tano Umaga. I wouldn't have been surprised if he said that, but he was maybe before the time that we put up, right?
Tano was a wing and a 13. He didn't ever play 12.
Oh. Well, it's better than Jonathan Davies at 13.
Anyways, okay, me. All right, so at 12, I went Ma'a Nonu as well. I just think you look at a player who's got the skills of a 13, but the physicality of a 12, Could kick, could run it up, could pass, he did whatever. So Ma'a Nonu is definitely the best 12, I think, ever. And then Brian O'Driscoll was my 13, purely because I felt like he carried a very poor Irish side on his back. Like, that guy stood out in an era, and he's not the GOAT, but I feel like he has a conversation. Not when I say conversation, I mean if you mention the greats, you mention Brian O'Driscoll, if that makes sense. I'm not saying he's the GOAT, but he's just a guy that, as well, flair, also very good rugby IQ, just the type of 13 you want. So yeah, that was my 2 centers.
I agreed with you, Brevan. Like Nonu, insane. He was the guy that I was watching growing up as like the main inside center with Conrad Smith. I wouldn't have. I thought about putting in Conrad Smith, but I was like, I've already got in so many All Blacks players. Got to put respect on Brian O'Driscoll. He's got the longevity. Was captain since he was like 15 years old or some shit for Ireland. He played with gloves, which was cool. So yeah, and as you said, he was the main guy for the Irish team that was still considered as average, and he kind of took them to the next level. Obviously, captain of the British. Was he captain of the British and Irish Lions as well? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, he had multiple tours for them, and I mean, his position was never in danger, really. That's just how good he always was. So I fully agree with you on the centers. The back three.
Okay. Yeah, this is now we go to the back three. So I'll start. I mean, first off, left wing, I had Brian Abana. I thought he was. I mean, he is, like you said, Brian O'Driscoll. You can mention him in with one of the greats, you know. Chip and chase king, intercept king, could read intercepts. Obviously, okay. Well, I know Brett thinks John de Villiers is the intercept king, but yeah, I think Abana was on par or maybe just less. And then right wing, I went with the Welsh. I went with Shane Williams. This oak was blitz. He was blitz, and he could step anything that was in his way. And look, again, the guy that you can mention as one of the great wings, you know, because, I mean, he scored a lot of tries for Wales. Flipping great player. And then at 15, I had Jason Robinson. I didn't decide to play him on the wing. I think Jason Robinson was a really good 15. I liked his flair, very quick. I mean, Rugby 08 nostalgia. Remember that, Casual?
Yeah.
Jason Robinson.
Next to his name as well. All guys just running around on the field. Insane.
Obviously a World Cup winner as well. So yeah, respect.
And Sam Whitelock had an interview the other day on a rugby pod where he also said like he thinks the most difficult guy that he ever had to tackle was Jason Robinson, just because of how quick he moved and how agile he was. Anyway, Brett, you can go with your back three.
Oh, obviously left wing, Brian Abana, all-time Springbok record. I mean, the oak was. I watched actually a highlights thing of him the other day. Some of the tries that he scored, he's not like your typical Mapimpi or your world that just can only score tries with open try lines and then people praise them for it. He made some insane tries, like wow. So obviously Brian Abana, respect to the guy. My right wing, I actually went for Jason Robinson. I felt like where he gained my respect is I always thought he was good, but South Africa beat them in the pool stage in 2007, and he pulled his hamstring, and he was back to play in the final against South Africa again. So I felt that's wow, and obviously the guy was just insane. But my fullback, I went with the person that I felt should still be playing for Australia if their people weren't idiots. Israel Folau probably would have gone down as the best fullback in history ever, like ever.
Yeah. If you think about the short career that he had, and I've got him in at my 15 as well, like he didn't have the longest career at 15, but if you just think about if he still played now, the magic
was insane.
He literally changed the game. That's how good he was. Like anything he touched turned into gold. He's the 15. I agree with Abana on the left. Second best at intercepts after John de Villiers. Second best at chip and chase after Ricky January. Absolutely brilliant, right? And then on the right wing, I also thought Jason Robinson, but once again, didn't see him as much. So I decided between two guys, right? And the one is like, I like this player a lot. Ben Smith, that also played at fullback for the All Blacks, also played on the wing, longevity-wise. But I was like, I'm going to take a guy that had a short career, right? But in that career, he was so dominant. Like he was the modern day.
I considered him as well.
And I was like, I'm going to put some respect on this guy's name. So I went Julian Savea on my right wing to end it all off with.
You took a guy that never played one test at right wing and put him at your all-time greatest right wing. Make that make sense.
Well, Abana's on the left. Did Abana ever play on the right wing?
Yes.
Okay, so then Julian Savea on the left and Abana on the right wing.
And he played centre.
No.
Okay, well, ladies and gents, I hope you enjoyed that one. I think that was actually quite chatty and upbeat. No slander was given, at least. So, yeah, but remember, guys, please remember to like, share, subscribe. Subscribing is free. Please just hit that button and then ring the bell for notifications when we upload. It's 10 o'clock South African time every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. But yeah, that's it from us, and we'll bring you some more content as we wait for the Rugby Championship. Yeah, cheers, guys.
Bye.